You also wrote another article about that, Joe Woods now has the ability to kind of flip the script and create defensive mismatches. We always talk about, the offense of NFL is about mismatches. Take me through what you think Joe Woods can do defensively that would create some mismatches.
Well, it just starts up front, right? When you have Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett and Takk McKinley and all these guys that can play just across that front four. I'm always reminded that Myles Garrett's first career sack, he was lined up in 3 technique on the inside against the Jets. And that's how he got his first sack on his very first play from scrimmage. So Myles always has that freedom to line up wherever he wants. And that's only going to increase, I think, with the rest of these guys. But then, Owusu-Koramoah is an interesting guy. Is he going to start? I don't know. But this is a guy you can have on the field. Let's say he's on the field for 50% of the defensive snaps this year. He can make an impact because Joe Woods can do so many different things. He can rush him off the edge. He can drop him into coverage. And as a quarterback, you've got to come to the line. You've got to identify the mic. You've got to figure out what guys are doing pre-snap and post-snap. And with all the length and the speed that they have, it's going to be difficult for these offenses to really function sometimes.
Think about the other thing that, you have guys that play multiple positions. John Johnson has played a Mike linebacker in some instances with the LA Rams. You've mentioned Owusu-Koramoah has played safety. You could, in theory, have guys playing different positions on 2 separate plays when they're on the field together. So it's going to be a lot to digest for an offense.
And the other thing, too, is, so often we talk about linebackers, like, okay, which linebacker is coming on this blitz? But let's say you're out there and you've got John Johnson, Ronnie Harrison, Grant Delpit all lined up at safety. Maybe you've got JOK out there at linebacker. That quarterback's going to have to figure out if the Browns are blitzing, who's coming. Because any of those safeties could come and get to the quarterback. Any of those linebackers can do the same thing. Or they could just drop everybody into coverage and rush 4. I think they're going to have their ability to do that, which, of course, Joe Woods watched when he was the DB coach back at San Francisco, working under Robert Saleh. San Francisco was so good at creating pressure with 4. There's just so many different things that this defense can do. And when you go through this schedule and look at the different types of offenses and different types of quarterbacks they're going to have to face, I really do think it's going to be different week to week.
The other thing is they've, from my perspective, do you think they've increased the athleticism and the speed? Because you need that when you're going against Lamar Jackson, when you're going against Patrick Mahomes, when you're going against, Josh Allen. Those guys, you better be able to run.
Yeah, I think there's probably like 3 plays that probably have to have stuck in the Browns' minds. And one of them is not like those other quarterbacks, and that's Chad Henne's big run, right? But also, you had Lamar Jackson coming out of the tunnel and throwing that long touchdown to Hollywood Brown. You had Trace McSorley completing a duck for a big 3rd down conversion. Lamar Jackson torched him in week 1, obviously. Yeah, they're going to have speed all over the place. You've got to play Lamar Jackson twice a year, regardless. And you have to, at least in some part, build your defense like that. I always thought Myles Garrett was a very important piece to trying to stop Lamar Jackson because he's such a freak of an athlete. But now you've got even more guys like that. And even at corner, now you've got Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. And I've got to imagine that if those 2 end up being your starters, obviously Ward will be, but if Newsome is the other starter, you've probably got 2 of the faster corners in the league on the outside.
Do you think it's by design? Is that what you think the grand plan was? Let's get more athletic, especially on the back half of that. It looks like that's what the grand plan was. Do you agree?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to not just Lamar Jackson, but just think about the quarterbacks you're going to have to beat if you want to get to the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. This team is going to have to play Justin Herbert this year. He can move around a little bit. They're going to have to play Kyler Murray this year. There are very few quarterbacks left in the NFL that are just statues and that just stand in the pocket. Almost every quarterback, even a guy like Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow can kill you with his legs. He's not a super athlete, but he can still kill you with his legs if you don't keep him in check. So just having speed across the board and making sure that these running quarterbacks and guys who can make plays with their legs, like you're not going to shut down Patrick Mahomes, but you can make life a lot harder on Patrick Mahomes if you have speed and guys that can chase him around.